All right, I want to welcome everyone to another Codeable Built with Heart podcast episode. We have a very exciting Codeable expert with us now. I think one of the most successful Codeable experts on platform. It's really great to have Tome here. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here. You flatter me.
No, look, I mean, there is no official list of who the most successful is, but I know you have some really great clients on Codeable. So I'm really excited to hear your insight. And on this podcast episode, we're sort of going to be talking about how to take your coding to the next level. And you are a really great man to speak about this. So, just obviously, before we get stuck into the kind of main discussion, just want to give everyone a brief introduction and sort of let everyone know how you first started in WordPress and yeah, well, what kind of projects you focus on these days.
Hmm. How I got into WordPress. I think it was, 9, 10 years ago by now. I used to be in different industries until I started an agency with a friend who's also now a Codeable expert. Uh, I was the project manager at the time, and I realized I was a terrible project manager. And since I like coding and solving problems, we parted ways. And yeah, I started working on my own. I had some previous experience, but I literally started from a HTML and CSS book and moved from there. I was on different freelance platforms, but since watching a presentation on WordCamp, I think Vienna at the time, uh, I had set Codeable as my goal. Then I kept repairing, learning more, improving, getting better. And yeah, I've been on the platforms for nearly 7 years. And yeah, loving it, working here ever since.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
super great.
from what kind of projects do you focus on these days? I've been, lucky enough to have a low number of clients, which I've worked for years. I am more in, I'm more prefer to work with my clients and figure out what the best use of our time is and try to see how we can move the needle. And so, yeah, it's not more what kind of projects are, it's just what kind of projects are best for the client. Sometimes, most of the time, they are WordPress projects, sometimes they're not. It's just based on the needs or the direction we want to move. When I did first started Codeable, I was working, as every starting expert, on different tasks for different clients. It was quite an interesting experience. I loved the environment that Codeable was at the time, still is, where there is a lot of emphasis on collaboration. And Codeable helped me become a better both developer and communicator on how we would like to approach clients, coworkers. Uh, yeah, it helped me grow and become better at my skill.
Every expert I speak to, it's there's a huge emphasis at Codeable on not just being great at skilled at working with WordPress, but yes, it's about how you deal with the clients, and those soft skills are super important. And yeah, I think every expert has improved being around other great great experts. So yeah, I guess yeah, we could sort of talk about how to improve and sort of like I know you in particular, you have very few clients, but you have long lasting relationships with these clients. So having these long lasting relationships, obviously you have to learn to improve and grow. And so as someone who may be watching this episode, what advice would you give now at the end of 2025 on what people should be sort of trying to focus on and sort of where you see your skills this year and leading into the next years? What is the big focus to improve?
Well, That's a double question, which is what's your focus to improve and what you should focus on. I would say that you as a developer are hired to do a task that the client needs done, and you have to understand why they want that task done. It's to achieve their goals. It may be sales, it may be conversion, it may be exposure, or it might be just personal pride in their local project. So what you need to understand deeply is how that works and what are the key metrics of success, and then work with them on how you can help them achieve those. I think that a really nice way to approach it is something I call cross-pollinating, which is as you get a skill set or on a single you work on a single project and build something you haven't done, think about not reusing the code because the code is owned by the client, but how you can utilize something similar on another project that client has or another clients. Just try to improve by improving your skill set, just improve your offering, what you can actually achieve, and the lessons learned as you will achieve those goals.
Do you have like a system for this kind of skill development? So for example, you're working with a client and you are using one of these new skill sets, but you've realized that perhaps it needs to be a little bit more advanced, so you might have to do a course or something like that. What kind of system do you have to kind of integrate that into the project itself?
So it's really interesting. I've used courses as the backbone in the past quite a bit. The first serious course that I did was a well digital analyst course because I wanted it comes back to the same proposition. How do you help your client achieve their goals? We were thinking about how can we actually understand how the users are moving through the site and other than just playing Google Analytics installation and getting the default answers. I realized this is something that could be beneficial. So I bought a course which was from CXL, and it was around I think 80 hours. It was quite a demanding course that helped me improve the tracking on that specific site. But since there are multiple websites, I could actually use my skill set to increase my workload in a way and just provide more value to the client by helping them track it across all the different websites. And also that increases your offering for other clients because now you have the skill set, which in a way you're not paid to learn, but you're paid to learn to implement.
Yes, exactly. You said that you did a course and it was and it took you 80 hours. Now, how much do you have a kind of equation, or do you do the 80-hour course and it's like not charged for the client? Do you charge a small percentage of this learning into the project, or is this all just on the side and you use that learning for the future? Do you have the advantage that the client is willing to say, hey, you have to learn this new skill and I'm prepared to spend the money for you to learn, or is this all on the side that you have to do outside of the project?
Well, generally it was, well, the course is self-funded, of course, but I've been working mostly with retainers, which are based on set of tasks that
Yes.
you need to achieve. So if there's extra time and in the retainer, I would spend that time learning, but it's more about even spending time in the morning or after the workday, trying to get a couple of hours in to get better, learn more. So I would say it's a mix, but also not really, because even as a retainer, you're not paid for your hours. You're paid to do the work that the client
Yes.
needs.
Yes, exactly. Now, I have to ask, we are living in an artificial intelligence world right now. So I definitely have to ask how you use AI and kind of at solving problems and how it's influenced your whole kind of workflow.
Well, the first influence of AI in my workflow is just overall increasing my level of anxiety
Yes, exactly.
because
Yes.
because it just opens up so many windows of how you can approach a problem, but at the same time, oh, I'm a I consider myself a lazy person, easily distracted one. So, and the way that I manage that is by being extremely disciplined with the time that I have. AI is a magic robot in the sky that spits out answers for you. And they
Absolutely.
are sometimes correct and sometimes they are not. And it's your job to make sure that you take the correct ones, discard the incorrect ones, and learn from the process. So it's we as humans in our brains always try to take the easier way in terms of like preserving energy. So you have to be extremely disciplined and force yourself to read and understand everything that goes forward. And your output is faster, which means that you get tired sooner. So one thing I've started introducing in the past 2 weeks is using the like Pomodoro technique, which is 30 hours to 30 minutes of work with 15 minutes of break. The normal is 5, but I really needed 15 minutes to clear my head a bit because after a while you get tired and you start accepting answers and then you spend the next day cleaning up after yourself. And the second part of how I approach AI is you don't use it as a way for you to get out code or solutions. You use it as a way to help you understand more. So use it as a learning tool more than anything else. Ask it to explain. Read the documentations on the tools you're using with AI, because not just the tools themselves, but also the dependencies that you're bringing in the code. Like nothing in your project should go that you do not understand.
Yes.
And you need to understand everything, well, deeply.
I just had two more questions about AI. The first is, do you think that AI makes learning easier or harder for someone who is new to either WordPress development or just development in general?
I actually think that it makes it a lot harder,
Okay.
a lot harder. I'm really worried about, not worried, but concerned about junior developers. You have one of the best aspects of AI is that it looks wonderful in the areas you're not an expert in. And junior developers are generally not an expert in anything. So it looks like a magic answering machine that solves all your problems. The, there's also an MIT study about how do we handle or how do we have cognitive challenging tasks after using AI. So, but we can show it in the show notes, I guess. We can share it in the show notes. It's really interesting that you don't get those aha moments that increase your knowledge overall. Uh, and also make you remember and improve. So I think that something will have to change in the process of learning in a way to help the junior developers retain information.
And the kind of last question I sort of wanted to talk about, the kind of main AI topic, was about kind of like how good is AI? You've seen it sort of evolve over time. And so do you think, how fast do you think AI will start becoming as good or even better than the kind of top 1 or 2% of kind of WordPress developers?
This is a really interesting question, and it can be a little bit more philosophical, but uh, I would say how I consider AI is more of a pattern repetition machines. So it's in the hands of a skilled developer with a decent code base, it can be a lot faster. But it's also an exponential factor of technical debt. So I've seen projects which were built by non-developers, and I've seen projects that were built by bad developers, and I've seen projects built by good developers. There is a stark difference, contrasting and difference in the way that they handle the AI coding. You can either, it's all about the prompts in a way, and how specific you are, how much do you adhere to your coding standards, how much do you adhere to the architecture. I don't think that AI is there yet. It might be hubris in my case, but I think that developers are, I think that the developers will be the best people to use AI to code projects, just from knowing the subject matter and how to handle everything. I think that debugging will be a skill set that will need to be improved by most of the developers. Testing will need to be adopted by everybody, but still developers would be all the best developers to handle AI development.
I mean, look, we could speak about AI the whole episode. It's certainly something that, especially in our industry, is really important to really embrace. And I think you definitely have a great handle on it. And I think that you see it as a really great tool, but you also need to make sure that the extra time that you have, that the AI is in your workflow, you're using that time to understand and learn, which is really great advice. So you mentioned before about teaching others is the best way to learn, and I know in the past you had a junior developer. So would you be able to expand on the whole teaching as an act of learning?
I would, from my experience, the best way to learn about the subject is to start teaching about it. It can be something that you're familiar with, and if you want to get more familiarized, you can just prepare a presentation, go to your local WordPress meetup and talk about it. Or as we do in our Codeable skills chat, and share it with your peers. The whole process, just the process of writing up a presentation will get you to remind yourself about the subject matter that you're talking about. And by going through the documentation, more likely than not, you will understand it more deeply. Because you are, I think that one of the key aspects is the Q&A section after each presentation, because you have to be prepared to be able to answer any questions that comes forward. It's also a great way for you to approach public speaking, which is another skill set that can be beneficial with working with your clients, because you don't have to speak in public, but even every call is a public speech in a way. It's also really helpful. I was horrible at it to start with, and I felt horrible about it. I think I'm a bit better, but it's still a stressful experience. I've never gotten through my stage fright.
No, look, I mean, look, you do extremely well, and look, obviously, other Codeable experts will know that you've done skill chats in the past, and skill chats are a live presentation with other Codeable experts, and you have done, I don't know exactly, at least 2 or 3, and so yeah, you do extremely well, and yeah, I do agree that being able to kind of do presentations and sort of show others is extremely a great tool to have, and us being Codeable experts, it's such a great advantage to have this great WordPress community, which yeah, where people are able to share, whether it be a skill chat or even just in a Slack channel or something where you have a group of developers talking about a specific thing. So yeah, I think I can't stress enough how great being on the Codeable platform is at sort of improving and overcoming that imposter syndrome, which I think all of us experience at the start, some more than others, but I can definitely say that the imposter syndrome working at Codeable at the start is definitely a real thing. So yeah, I wanted to talk, I guess the last main topic is the future of WordPress. Now, obviously, in the last 12 or 2 years, WordPress has had some exciting developments. And so, where do you see WordPress in the next few years?
A really interesting, because we've been using different service, like I've been experimenting with different services like Replit, Lovable, and all those AI focused website generators get to the same point which is they start with the most bare bones setup they can use because that's the easiest way to start. Which I would say starts to hurt when you realize, oh, you actually need to manage the content that's on the website. It's not a fire and forget. And most of the websites are live websites. And also you have to deal with updates, security changes, security updates, checks, increased node versions, for example. So I think that's still for most informational website using a CMS like WordPress is well, the best option. You can use AI tools to help you generate themes, but yeah, I think that WordPress is here to stay at least for a long while. Uh, I like where Gutenberg currently is. I didn't love it at start,
Yes.
around 5.0, and was quite apprehensive about it, but I think that it's a great way to, well, approach WordPress development. And I've built a couple of extremely complex blocks that just work wonders. Uh, yeah, I think that the direction WordPress is going is quite positive.
Yes.
It also helped.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that also, well, I'm not a fan of React websites, or most of the React websites, because you don't always need a front-end framework to do page transitions, especially now, but using it in the backend for managing the content was a wise choice.
I do have one question about this, and it might be a difficult question for you because you have so much experience with WordPress. It might be hard to kind of try to take a step back. But if you were just getting into WordPress development now, so you just got approved as a Codeable expert, and you're sort of just starting your journey in WordPress, what would you focus on learning first? As someone who knows almost everything about WordPress, but if you sort of had to forget all of that, what would you kind of sit down and say, okay, I need to really focus and be the best at a certain thing when it comes to WordPress development?
That's also two questions, right? What are you doing when you want to start developing for WordPress?
Yes.
And number two is what do you do when you start at Codeable? Because hopefully by that point you're actually knowledgeable and you are we pass the vetting process
Yes, of
and
course.
you show
Yes.
that you're actually a capable developer.
Yes.
Uh, it's interesting. And the answer is, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. That's a super
I,
honest answer.
I've been building themes with Gutenberg, block themes or hybrid themes, as you might call them. I am still not completely sold on a full site editing because of one specific reason, which is you give your client the option to easily break your site. And the clients that I use prefer a more curated experience. Maybe I've used FSC, maybe I don't understand the philosophy behind it. So I would say understand WordPress as a blank slate to start with. And then depending on what you want to achieve or what your clients want to achieve, because you are building a website for yourself maybe, but then you just need to start charging for it to pay the rent. I would say try to learn what helps them grow. I know that the current landscape is a bit more complicated than it was with all the JavaScript frameworks, but it's a great place to start and learn.
No, yeah, look, you know what? That was definitely not an easy question. And yeah, you did well answering that. So just before we wrap things up, would you be able to share, like, let's say, like three practical tips for freelancers who want to take their coding to the next level?
I would say first one, if you're having dedicated time to learn, to study, do it at the start of the day because you will never have it in the middle or the end of the day. You'll be tired or you'll be way too burnt out from the work, and there's always something else to do. But when you start it in the morning, you'll always find a way to finish your professional responsibilities before you end the day. So having it as a repetitive task really helps. Also, try to teach what you learn. It gives clarity, it helps you understand it a lot deeper, it positions yourself as a person who knows about something. Number three is, I would say, conferences, and not just WordCamps. Try to see other try to either watch or if you can visit other conferences which are outside of your WordPress space. There's one fantastic one which I unfortunately missed this year. It's the Performance.now conference in Amsterdam, which is at the bleeding edge of web performance. There are some great talks on Laracon. Also, you can just, if you go to the gym once in a while, put a conference talk in the background. You'll get some information, and if you find it useful, you can rewatch it later.
Yeah, okay. Look, that was, yeah, there's some really great practical takeaways there. Look, I have to thank you so much for sharing your insight. Like I said, you are an extremely experienced and successful expert, and yeah, your advice is always great. I guess the sort of main takeaways are, yeah, to be really intentional about what stuff you learn, sort of have a focus. And also, something that's super important is to use all of these different AI tools. You use them as a partner, and that, yeah, if you can, to try and show and to teach others is definitely helpful. And yeah, I also agree that the future of WordPress is super exciting. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insight.
Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and so I will share at the bottom of this YouTube video, I will have a link to your profile on Codeable and also your LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out, it'll be really easy. So, and also if you are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, to hear some great insights from incredibly insightful Codeable experts. So yeah, thanks again for doing this podcast.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, if you are looking for a freelancer to level up your WordPress site or even build a new WordPress site, definitely reach out at codeable.io. All right, great. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing everyone on the next one.